What's up, guys? Tonight we're gonna do some bourbon and World War whiskey. So we have Maker's Mark versus Cooper's Mark. 91 proof versus 90 proof. Both of these are about $25. So it's about as evenly matched as you can get. I mean, Cooper's Mark even bit Maker's Mark name, for goodness sake. At least I think. I haven't looked into the history, but it sure seems like they're trying to compete with this guy over here. Now, the Cooper's Mark is actually a small batch bourbon. So for 25 bucks and 91 proof, I figured it's worth a shot, right? For a small batch, that's a great bargain. This Maker's Mark, nothing fancy. I mean, it has the red Maker's Mark, which we just peeled off and have red wax everywhere on the ground. Little messy, but it does indeed give it that distinguishing look. Way back when, that would be, they dip it and it would be the official, this is the bourbon. Nobody poured any cheap stuff in, and you got the mark on there. All right, let's see what we think about these two bourbons. And before we taste them, I just want to say I want to dedicate this show to Dom Domino in Indiana, one of our subscribers here. He just moved from California to Indiana, and he found out the hard way what blue laws are. You can't buy alcohol after a certain time on Sunday, so he wanted to watch the football game and drink some beer, and he got in the checkout stand 3-4 minutes too late and was not able to buy it. So he texted me he had to drink some bourbon tonight, although it's a hot October day. Hot October week. It's been like 100 degrees here in California. Not sure where you guys are at, what it's been like, but I imagine it's been hotter than normal. So not traditionally a bourbon kind of time. Usually people are drinking some lighter stuff, but we got to get through some bourbons, guys. We got to get through some whiskey. The year, I feel like it's flown by with the COVID craziness. We're running out of time. Heat or snow, we got to get through some whiskey. So let's get into it here tonight. The Maker's Mark, we're going to pour a little more in this glass and really give you a synopsis of these two. $25. Sometimes you'll see this all the way to 30s, depending on what state you're in. Sometimes I'll give prices and people will say, well, that's really cheap. Where are you getting it at? Sometimes, you know, California has its disadvantages and its advantages. One of our advantages is we got liquor on every corner and it's usually cheap. So I think you can even find this for like $22, depending on, you know, Costco, some of these other places. So actually, the Costco, you get the bigger one for 30 something, but you can find this for like 22 bucks sometimes. But you're gonna find it 25 to 30. And as I said, I found this one for 25. So let's get into them. Dom, you're drinking some bourbon tonight. We're gonna drink it with you here on World War Whiskey and tell you what we think, Maker's Mark or Cooper's Mark. So right off the bat, the Cooper's Mark has a very kind of woody kind of scent to it, but not a whole lot going on. The Maker's Mark definitely has a little more bourbon sweetness smell to it, a little bit of cherry I'm picking up. So let's taste the Maker's Mark first and then compare it to Cooper's. So definitely taste the 90 proof. It's a strong alcohol burn, a little bit of an afterburn, but it's good. It's very traditional bourbon, nothing too crazy, not a whole lot of flavor going on one way or another. Just it has potency, and it tastes like bourbon, right? You know what you're getting with Maker's Mark. Very plain, but plain in a good way. Very just straight and no nuances. It's just one of those bourbons that can go in anything, mix it, drink it straight, put it on ice. You'll probably like it anyway. You might not love it, it might not be your favorite bourbon, but no one's gonna taste that and hate it unless you're new to alcohol and it burns and you're like, this is disgusting. But if you drink bourbon, you're probably not gonna hate Maker's Mark. All right, let's see what Cooper's Mark. All right, so initially it's a little smoother, even though it's a 91 proof. The Maker's Mark burned more. It's a little smoother, a little more Elijah Craigy, but not as good as Elijah Craig. it doesn't have quite the refinement. It's a small batch bourbon. In a sense, I could tell. It seems like it's a small batch, like a home brew, home batch that somebody put together that just quite didn't hit the mark, no pun intended. So not bad, but doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It's a little just raw and unrefined. Doesn't have a lot of complexity before or after. It just kind of hits you with a little bit of wood, a little bit of nut flavor, and then it just drops off. So, which of these two do I like? Definitely the Maker's Mark is going to win this one out. Neither of them are really hitting the spot for me right now. I don't know if it's because of the heat, but neither one of them really seem too complex, or just they both just seem average. But the Maker's Mark is what it is. You know, it's a solid bourbon. You're not going to be disappointed. If I'm mixing, Maker's Mark all day, whether that be old fashioned or Coke. If I'm putting it on ice, if I'm drinking it neat, I'm going to pick the Maker's Mark over the Cooper's Mark. Now, where I would pick Cooper's Mark, it's not a terrible bourbon. Say I'm going to have some steak and potatoes. The kind of the wood nut kind of flavor, and even though it's slightly a little less refined and whatnot, the flavor profile just makes me think more of like a steak, where this is going to be one you're just going to drink on its own, or you could have it with meat, you could have it with other things. But if you remember my Elijah Craig review, I said I would pick that one with steak, and that's what is triggering in my mind here, is this would go good with that type of dinner. But the Maker's Mark is a better bourbon. It just has a little better flavor, even though it burns a little more. There's something just missing with the Cooper's Mark for me in the sense of its refinement. It's just kind of one-dimensional. So for $25, it's not a terrible deal, but there's a lot of other $25 scotches or bourbons that I would pick. So if you want to try Cooper's Mark just for a change of pace, go for it. If not, I would probably put my $25 elsewhere. And if it's between these two, I would go with the Maker's Mark. We'll see you guys soon. Hopefully, we'll try to knock some of these out quick to the point videos just to let you guys know which ones to buy. And as always, love to see what you think and hear, and if you agree or disagree with what I have to say. So see you soon.